All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here on the ED Radio Podcast. We are going to be talking again about performance anxiety and some of the root causes of performance anxiety. Mark Goldberg is going to be leading this discussion, certified sex therapist. I'm going to be the host here, just your podcast producer, Casey Callanan. And Mark, when we were talking about collaborating on a performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction kind of podcast series, you were very adamant that we needed to do an episode about feelings of not feeling like yourself. The topic of, I don't feel like myself regardless of what my partner says. You thought it was really important that we dedicate an episode to that. Why?
So Casey, the reason why I think this is a really important topic is because men who are experiencing relationship-based performance anxiety, I think become hyper-focused on the partner. And I think they lose sight of something which is really important, which is their experience of performing on a partner.
Got it.
And I think what becomes disturbing for a lot of men, and I think what really drives some of the anxiety, is when they have earlier experiences and they felt a certain way, they felt a certain bravado, they felt like they could deliver an experience. And when they begin to lose that confidence, when they begin to worry that they won't be able to deliver the same kind of experience, it's not so much about the partner in many instances. It's a lot more about how they feel in that role, not eliciting a response, or not feeling as masculine or as powerful as they once felt. I think it's a really overlooked but really important part of performance anxiety.
Gotcha. So why do you think so many men struggle with not feeling like themselves, even when their partner is saying all the right things and being super supportive?
There probably are a number of reasons why that happens. But like I was saying, it's an experience that a man has come to know as his baseline. It tends to feel good. He feels good about the role that he has. He feels empowered. He feels in control of the experience. He knows what to expect. He knows what to predict. And when a man starts to lose that sense, even if a partner is saying, I like it better this way.
Yeah.
You're softer. You're more attentive. These experiences are actually going better. That lack of feeling like yourself is really, really distressing.
Got it. Okay. So we know relationship issues play a role in ED. We've covered this before, but this one seems a little different. It feels like the partner is really trying to help the man overcome his erectile dysfunction issues. She or he is doing everything they can to help their partner out. So where does a person go who's dealing with ED after all that support?
Okay, this is a great question. So you're talking about a situation where the partner is saying all the right things genuinely. They're really there, supportive. They're not distressed, perturbed. They're not being critical. And this man just cannot get out of his head. He really is distressed by how he's feeling in the experience. So generally speaking, if a man cannot extricate himself from that feeling, from that situation, the next steps would be to talk with a trained sex therapist. And there's a number of routes that a man can go with this. So if there have actually been changes to the experience based on physiological components or even psychological components, changes in the nature of the relationship, a man can either adjust to those, learn how to regain a sense of empowerment, feeling like a man within that new context. A man potentially can try to get back to where he was, get back to that sense, change some of the factors that have contributed to him not feeling as masculine.
Okay.
So that's a little bit different than the acceptance route. It's trying to really get back to a sense of what works for him. But generally speaking, these are much more internal constructs than they are relational.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you think performance anxiety can arise from self-doubt?
I think that's where most of performance anxiety comes from.
Oh, wow. Okay.
With the exception of a very critical partner, I think the worry when it comes to performance anxiety is I'm not good enough. I'm not big enough. I don't have enough stamina. I don't know what I'm doing. I think these are all thoughts that could be categorized as self-doubt. So I think a lot, if not all, of performance anxiety really does stem from a feeling of self-doubt.
Yeah.
Now, some of it probably is a proper assessment of self.
Got it.
But it is a mischaracterization of expectations. So sometimes that gap can also lead to performance anxiety. So if we're really kind of breaking down performance anxiety into its components, then some of it is a misassessment of self, and others are an accurate assessment of self, but a misassessment of reality or of the situation.
Gotcha. So where do men go to seek help in this situation when, they're trying to get over the hump of just not feeling like themselves?
Again, another great question. I would say do not go to online unmoderated forums. Let me start with that, because there's always somebody who's going to hook into your anxiety and hook into your worst fears. And to that end, I think accurate information is so key. Listening to this podcast, finding good, credible, reliable sources of information, first and foremost, I think is the foundation to addressing a lot of these anxieties. Like I was saying, there are elements of self-doubt. Right? It's a real factor, but there also is a lot of misinformation and a lot of distorted beliefs out there about how things should be. And that really requires a good, solid information. If a man has that information and is really then experiencing a more pronounced self-doubt, I would say that if he does not find success working on that on his own, probably it's time to spend a little bit of time working with a professional.
Gotcha.
To work on improving self-doubt, improving self-confidence, I should say, in particular in the sexual context. Sometimes what I find is that this is very situational for some men. They're entering into a new relationship. They feel like a partner is out of their league. So, and they may be right about that. But that can certainly open the door to a very situationally based self-doubt, which may indicate couples therapy or couples session, or needing to open up channels of communication to more directly challenge self-doubt, which is very situational. So,
got it. Mark Goldberg, do you have any other final thoughts for us on today's episode before we end it?
So, what I would say is it is very likely that men are going to encounter a time in their lives where they're not going to feel like their old selves. Something is going to give way: sexual desire, sexual performance, stamina, or they may be in the exact same place that they were, but something changes with their partner. It's sometimes a partner goes from having very low libido to having a very high, relatively speaking, libido, and that can also change this overall feel. This is a normal, I think, to be expected experience, and I think how a man handles this juncture is really, really important to longevity of sexual satisfaction. So I think if our listeners understand that it's going to happen to basically every guy at some point.
Gotcha.
And the way that they go about and handle that is going to be a direct indicator of their like long-term experience.